Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating science, the incredible lineage, and, well, the stark ecological reality of mescaline. We are talking about humanity's original psychedelic.
Now, to really wrap our heads around this molecule, we have to rewind the clock a staggering 5,700 years. I mean, this completely shatters that modern myth that psychedelics somehow just popped into existence with a Swiss chemist riding a bicycle in a 20th century lab. The real story? It's much older, and honestly, a whole lot greener than that.
So, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to hit 1. The original psychedelic, 2. How mescaline works, 3. 2 cacti, 1 molecule, 4. The Peyote crisis, and finally, 5. Safety and the law.
Starting right off with Section 1, the original psychedelic, humanity's oldest tradition. Let's establish just how incredibly vast this molecule's multi-millennial history actually is.
Just look at how this timeline stretches out across human history. All the way on the left, you've got radiocarbon-dated peyote buttons recovered from Shumla Cave down in Texas. That takes us all the way back to roughly 3700 BC. That is literally the oldest chemically confirmed psychedelic use on Earth. Then, jumping ahead to 1897, a German chemist named Arthur Heffter isolates mescaline. This makes it the very first psychedelic compound ever chemically identified by modern science, literally decades before LSD was a thing. It became the ultimate reference psychedelic. It's the exact molecule Aldous Huxley took for his famous book, The Doors of Perception, and the template that chemist Alexander Shulgin later used to create a massive library of new psychedelics. So we're talking about a continuous, living tradition that bridges prehistoric caves right up to the modern scientific era. Moving on to Section 2, how mescaline works. The same engine, a different day. Let's explore the specific neuropharmacology. You know, the actual engine this ancient molecule runs on inside the human brain.
So chemically speaking, mescaline is a phenylethylamine. Basically, this means it has an amphetamine-like skeleton, which puts it in the exact same structural chemical family as dopamine. On paper, that makes it totally distinct from tryptamines like psilocybin or DMT. But, and this is a huge but, clinical studies prove it acts as an agonist on the exact same serotonin 5-HT2A receptors as LSD and psilocybin. In controlled human studies, if you pre-treat subjects with ketonserin, which is a selective antagonist that blocks that 5-HT2A receptor, you actually prevent or reverse most of mescaline's effects. So it might have a completely different chemical skeleton, but it opens the exact same neural doors.
But here is where we see a really stark contrast. A full mescaline experience asks for a grueling 10 to 14-hour day. According to modern dose-finding trials out of research groups in Basel, this makes mescaline the absolute longest acting of all the classic psychedelics. We're talking longer than LSD's 9 to 12 hours and roughly double the duration of psilocybin. It is a massive commitment.
And to reach that incredibly long 10 to 14-hour duration, you're looking at a moderate dose range of 300 to 500 milligrams. Actually, taking this amount comes with a famously slow and physically demanding onset. It frequently takes a solid 1 to 2 hours just to come up. Which naturally brings us to a crucial question you might be wondering about. Why does peyote, or just mescaline in general, cause such intense nausea during that slow onset? Like, what is actually happening in the body?
Well, the answer lies in its physiological action. Mescaline acts as a mild sympathomimetic. Basically, it acts as a gastric irritant that modestly raises your heart rate and blood pressure. And that is what triggers the early nausea and sometimes vomiting. But what's really fascinating here is that in traditional indigenous ceremonies, this isn't just brushed off as an unfortunate side effect. Not at all. It's actually revered as a necessary, deeply meaningful purge to physically prepare the body for the visionary phase that follows.
Which brings us to Section 3, 2 cacti, 1 molecule, the botanical divide. Let's take a look at how this single, fascinating molecule comes to us from 2 vastly different botanical worlds.
You can clearly see the stark contrast between these two plants right away. On one side, we've got peyote. It's a small, squat, spineless cactus from the North American Chihuahuan Desert, and it is agonizingly slow growing. I mean, a single button can take well over a decade to mature. On the flip side, we have San Pedro, or Washuma. This is a tall, columnar cactus native to the high Andean mountains of South America, and unlike peyote, it's highly sustainable and fast-growing. So it's the exact same molecule, but housed in 2 utterly different plants representing 2 distinct ceremonial worlds.
And that leads us to Section 4, the Peyote crisis, an endangered sacrament. That immense difference in growth rate we just talked about leads directly to a major modern ecological conflict.
See, wild peyote has been in a recognized conservation crisis since 1995, which is when the Native American Church officially declared it a top priority. Because it grows so incredibly slowly, it simply cannot keep pace with harvesting pressures. It is actively being decimated by land development and root plowing down in Texas, illegal poaching, improper harvesting that destroys the vital root system, climate stress, and of course a surging demand from worldwide psychedelic tourism. The plant itself is quite literally running out.
Because of this severe threat, indigenous advocates strongly request that wild peyote be protected and kept entirely out of the modern psychedelic gold rush. So the big takeaway here is pretty clear. Choosing the fast-growing San Pedro cactus over the endangered peyote is increasingly viewed as an act of ecological conservation. It's truly the ethically and ecologically responsible alternative for anyone who is mescaline curious.
All right, let's wrap up with Section 5, Safety and the Law, Modern Guardrails. Let's objectively outline the physiological parameters and the highly complex legal status of this compound.
The crucial point regarding safety is that while mescaline boasts a very wide physiological safety margin, meaning there's no established lethal overdose and it's not physically addictive, it absolutely still requires immense respect. It does cause a transient rise in your heart rate and blood pressure, but the dominant risk here is psychological. The sheer 10+ hour length of the experience makes it psychologically demanding, requiring rigorous attention to your mindset and your physical setting. And, as is standard with most of these compounds, a personal or family history of psychosis is a strict contraindication.
Now, looking at the legal landscape for the U.S. in 2026, we are dealing with a very complex web. Mescaline remains a Schedule I substance at the federal level. Yet, there are specific federal religious exemptions, most notably the 1994 amendments that protect sacramental peyote use for enrolled members of the Native American Church. We're also seeing some really fascinating state-level nuances, like Colorado's Proposition 122. Colorado essentially decriminalized mescaline, but they deliberately excluded peyote to honor indigenous stewardship and help protect the endangered cactus. And here's a quirky legal fact for you. Live San Pedro cacti are widely and completely legally sold as ornamental plants across the country. But extracting or consuming the mescaline inside them, that is absolutely unlawful.
Ultimately, mescaline is far more than just a chemical compound to be isolated in a lab. It is a profound, living sacrament with a 5,000-year lineage, and right now, a deeply endangered body. The oldest psychedelic still has the most to teach us about how to treat these medicines with the respect they deserve, which leaves us with a critical question to ponder. Will the modern world respect its endangered body and honor the indigenous stewardship that protected it before it vanishes entirely? Thank you for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this sparked your curiosity and equipped you with some solid insight today.